The man was the strongest player in a summoner game. Under his command were countless terrifyingly powerful summons. But just as he finally cleared the 100th floor of the tower that no one had ever conquered, summoning scrolls from the game began drifting across the sky of the real world. And in front of every person, an instruction appeared telling them to tear the scroll apart. But the moment people obeyed and ripped the scrolls open, countless horrifying monsters suddenly descended upon the real world. This sudden scene left me frozen on the spot. Before I could even react, a truck slammed into me and knocked me unconscious. When I woke up again, I discovered that 3 years had already passed. From my parents, I learned that in those 3 years, the world had completely changed. The game had fully descended into reality, and even my father now had a stone statue summon. At the same time, the TV was broadcasting that the world's #1 summoner, Rachel, was searching for Jean Reed, and the player she described as capable of overturning the world was me, lying in the hospital bed. What I could be sure of was that this woman was one of the 5 emperors whose strength in the game had once been second only to mine. At that moment, a system prompt appeared before my eyes asking whether I wanted to enter the tutorial. Then my mother warned me not to rush things, saying that with my current physical condition, I was still too weak. Although I still did not know exactly what this world had become, I was more familiar with this game than anyone. After returning home, I began searching through a large amount of information online. What could be confirmed for now was that the Tower of Trials in the game, along with those summons, had all descended into reality. And over these 3 years, humanity had gradually learned how to coexist with them. Afterward, having cleared the tutorial, I went to an open area. Because the system had rewarded me with 2 low-grade summoning scrolls, I needed a place with no one around to use them. At that moment, all I hoped for was that it would at least give me some decent summons. Even for a legendary player like me, if I started with nothing but trash summons, it would be extremely hard to grow. But I did not hold out too much hope, because the gacha rates in this game were absurdly terrible. I only hoped I would not end up with the bottom tier F rank. After praying for a moment, I tore open the low-grade scroll in my hand. The next second, a bolt of lightning suddenly struck my hand, startling me on the spot. Then an EX rank wind spirit appeared from inside the scroll. This left me somewhat confused. In the game, there seemed to be no such rank at all. At that moment, the wind spirit said with a shocked expression, "After all these years, someone can still summon me." I had not expected summons to be able to speak, but after a while, it was as if something suddenly came back to me. "Your name is Lamb, right? How do you know that?" "Only my master, Jean Reed, knows my name." Then she became incomparably excited. "Could you really be him?" Immediately after that, she held my face and cried, "Master, I really missed you so much." It seemed that this EX rank summon had truly returned to my side. Back then, I had used a hidden mechanic to embed the most suitable runes into her, cultivating her into a top-tier support and pushing her attack speed to record-breaking levels. During my beginner period, she had accompanied me for a very long time, so I had always called her Lamb. But hadn't she already been deleted before as a game bug? Back then, the developers forcibly stripped her away from me on the grounds that she broke game balance, and that made me furious. After checking the status bar, I discovered that the spirit was currently in an isolated state. Lamb tearfully told me that at the time, she had been sucked into a cage by a mysterious force and simply could not escape. But when I asked her who exactly had isolated her, she hesitated and gave no answer. She also said that as long as she tried to think about it, her head would ache terribly, making her completely unable to answer my question. That inevitably made me a little annoyed. "What exactly do you know? Tell me everything." From Lamb, I learned that she was not the only one who had been isolated, but that there were 10 of them in total. Those words instantly made me think of something. Back then, when I had used those things the system deemed bugs, exactly 10 summons had been forcibly deleted. Could it be that they had all been classified into an entirely new rank, EX rank, and then isolated together? That might mean they would only react to my summoning scrolls, or perhaps this was the reward I received for clearing the 100th-floor tower. With that thought in mind, I decisively tore open the other low-grade summoning scroll. But unexpectedly, what appeared was only an ordinary F-rank gorilla. That completely overturned my earlier guess and also showed that the result of a summoning scroll was entirely random. Still, in the future I could obtain more high-grade scrolls, and that way I would have a chance to regain those absurdly overpowered summons that had once been deleted. After that, I told Lamb to remember that from now on, she must not call out my real name again. Because of the existence of the 5 emperors, my name had already spread across the world, and I absolutely could not expose myself now. I had to raise my strength as quickly as possible before they found me. At that moment, the system suddenly notified me that I had entered the next stage. The portal before my eyes could send me into the basic tutorial dungeon. I was still a little nervous at that moment, because this was reality, not a game, and there was no chance to start over. Although I had the experience of clearing countless dungeons, even now I still had to be extremely cautious. After entering, I discovered that the environment inside was indeed just as eerie as it had been in the game. At the same time, the system informed me that I had successfully entered the beginner dungeon. To fight in a dungeon, you had to form a team with your summons. Each team could hold at most 5 summons. And right now, I could only team up with the newly summoned Wind Spirit and that gorilla. Ordinarily speaking, if you wanted to raise the dungeon clear rate, it was best to gather all 5 summons. But based on my experience, these 2 were already enough for a beginner tutorial. The moment I clicked confirm, the Wind Spirit and the gorilla were summoned to my side at the same time. And the target the beginner tutorial gave me was an F-rank Grey Wolf. Then the system automatically generated a protective barrier around me. It seemed that this place was the same as the game, or a shield would be generated first to protect the player. It was just that if you were attacked before the shield activated, you would really die. The next moment, I ordered the gorilla to make the first move and attack directly. But it was simply too slow, and the Grey Wolf did not take it seriously at all. But I had expected this long ago, so I immediately had the Wind Spirit move up to support it. With just one wave of the Wind Spirit's wand, she could increase a summon's attack speed. Sure enough, under her enhancement, the gorilla's movements immediately sped up and were already enough to threaten the Grey Wolf. But looking at the Grey Wolf charging over as well, I still could not help sighing. Why was this thing completely different from the game, and its size so exaggerated? At that moment, all I could do was hope that the enhanced gorilla would be able to stop this damned Grey Wolf. But reality did not unfold according to my expectations. In just one exchange, the Grey Wolf pinned it to the ground. So I had no choice but to urge the Wind Spirit to keep swinging the wand in her hand. Under one round of enhancement after another, the gorilla finally managed to land a hit on the Grey Wolf. Immediately after that, as the Wind Spirit further increased the magic intensity, the gorilla finally relied on its extreme speed to overpower the ferocious Grey Wolf. And every punch it threw was as fast as lightning, making it impossible for the opponent to defend itself. Just like that, before long, the Grey Wolf before my eyes was completely killed. Seeing that scene, I finally let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, nothing had gone wrong. The reward I received afterward for clearing it was 2 low-grade strength runes. At the same time, elsewhere, my younger sister was looking at the 200,001 she had earned today, her face full of excitement. 3 years ago, after the world changed drastically, an entirely new profession had appeared, Rune Collector. By entering dungeons to gather runes and then selling them to those in need. By a stroke of luck, Baekjinya had obtained a mid-grade summoning scroll in a low-level dungeon and had luckily gained a C-rank summon from it. It was precisely thanks to that C-rank summon, the Shadow Spirit, that she was able to earn a steady income by collecting runes. Just then, I gave her a call. Dad said you're a rune merchant now. What do you mean, rune merchant? You make me sound like some street vendor. I'm obviously a rune collector. Alright, whatever you call it, do you know where the player center is? As summons and dungeons appeared all over the world, people also needed a place to handle all matters related to summoning. And so the player zone came into being, where all kinds of things could be handled. Afterward, my sister took me to the player center she was most familiar with. Along the way, she kept trying to find out what exactly the 2 summons I had gotten were, but I only told her one was F rank and the other was E rank. Then, under my questioning, she raised her hand, preparing to let me see her summon. The next second, the C rank Shadow Spirit was summoned out. Seeing that I had little reaction, Baekjinya immediately said excitedly that summons above C rank were all extremely rare. So I had no choice but to greet it first, then casually asked whether it could talk. What are you even talking about? How could a summon possibly talk? There simply are no talking summons in this world. I think you're just trying to stir things up on purpose. That left me stunned for a moment. My lamb had always been able to speak to me normally from the time she had been with me. And because of that, I had mistakenly thought that as long as it was a humanoid spirit, it would be able to talk like her. After that, she led me into the interior of the player center. Everything before my eyes was almost exactly the same as what I had seen in the game, and that made me somewhat excited. Here, everyone could freely trade summoning scrolls and other items they had obtained. Before long, I said goodbye to Baekjinya and planned to look around on my own first. When I reached a place with no one around, I summoned Lam out. But just as she was about to speak, I raised my hand and cut her off directly. From now on, you are not allowed to talk to me anywhere. The moment you open your mouth, you will definitely attract other people's attention, so you may only speak to me inside dungeons. What I needed now was some startup capital for trading and growth. But the little money I had on hand was obviously far from enough. Just as I was thinking about how to earn the startup funds, an extra 500,001 suddenly appeared in my account. Looking at the text message, I saw that it was sent to me by my mother. It seemed she was afraid I had no money on hand. For these 3 years, they had taken care of me in every possible way, and I owed them far too much. Now, I had to become stronger as quickly as possible and let the whole family live a wealthy life. First, I bought 3 low-grade summoning scrolls to fill all 5 slots for entering a dungeon. The first one summoned was an ordinary F-rank slime. The second was also just a normal summon, an F-rank horned butterfly. Fortunately, the quality of the last one was slightly better. It was an E-rank venom lizard. These guys looked somewhat useful, except for that sticky slime. Now there was only one thing left. I had to find a dungeon suitable for me. Back when it was only a mobile game, I could enter with a single tap, but now things were not that simple. I still did not know what dungeons that physically existed in this world were really like. But when I looked up information online, I discovered that having summons did not mean you were qualified to enter a dungeon. Dungeon entrances appeared randomly, and no matter where they appeared, you could judge the dungeon's difficulty by the energy it emitted. But now the rules had changed. No matter how low a dungeon's difficulty was, only those officially registered as players were qualified to enter. So I called back Jinya, and she told me that to enter a dungeon, I first had to pass a test, which was also meant to further control the number of players. After all, if everyone with a summon wanted to go in and make a fortune, the whole world would lose control. And I also learned from her that among the players of this world, there was also a clear ranking system. It was just that our country's overall strength was too weak, and no one could squeeze into the list at all. If the legendary Jean Reed were to appear, however, the situation would probably be completely different. The next day, I arrived at the site to register as a player. Only after submitting my documents did I learn that 50 players would be selected out of 1,000 participants, and the difficulty of that could easily be imagined. Not long afterward, in a cafe, Chairman Park Chan-suk was sitting there reviewing the application materials. Just then, an explosion suddenly rang out and blew apart the wall behind him. Immediately after, a man walked in with his summons. "You killed all my brothers, and now you still dare pretend as if nothing happened." The next moment, the chairman also summoned his own summon. "You lunatic, it looks like you really want to settle this with me." The atmosphere between both sides instantly became tense, and a major battle was on the verge of breaking out. At the same time, I was also sitting in the cafe. It was my first time seeing such a crazy scene in reality. That overwhelmingly oppressive aura instantly drew the attention of everyone present. Because Judge Park Chang-suk had always shown no mercy to criminals, everyone was actually not that afraid. Still, everyone quickly summoned their own summons and put protective shields on themselves. And I also blended into the crowd, intending to watch this battle first. At that moment, Lam seemed to notice something and wanted to speak to me. But before she could make a sound, I pressed her back down with one hand and cut her off directly. We agreed that we would not draw attention. "You cannot speak outside right now." At the same time, as the man in the suit waved his hand, his giant orc summon charged over fiercely with a battle axe in hand. For safety's sake, I still chose to stay in the back and observe. The judge then controlled his flame butterfly and fired a fireball toward the orc. The powerful flames instantly covered the entire area ahead. But when the smoke cleared, the orc was unexpectedly completely unharmed. Seeing this, that man immediately showed an arrogant smile and mocked the judge's strength as being nothing special. After realizing that his attack had no effect, Park Chan-suk also understood that things were becoming troublesome. And from where I was hiding in the back, I was nearly dumbfounded. This battle looked just like children fighting. At this rate, the judge would definitely lose. And once that man won, he would never spare the civilians here. So I walked behind him, preparing to remind him how to fight. I told him that the timing of the flame butterfly's skill release was wrong. "Did you see that Cyclops monster behind the orc? It was granting all the summons a fire resistance buff. So your fire attacks could not possibly deal damage to them. Whenever the Cyclops cast its skill, the orc's body would glow red, and that was the sign that the buff had taken effect. So what to do next? You should understand now, right?" After understanding my words, the judge immediately ordered the flame turtle to attack. The powerful flames instantly burned across the orc's body. At the same time, the judge's treant extended vines from the ground and instantly bound the Cyclops monster that had been providing protection. Then he ordered his fire summon to continue the pursuit. Just like that, the man's orc and his other summons were all burned into ashes. Seeing that victory had already been decided, the man instantly panicked and immediately opened his protective barrier. Then he begged frantically for mercy, hoping that the judge would spare his life, saying he was willing to surrender himself. But just as his words fell, the trance vines bound him tightly, leaving him unable to move at all. And when it came to dealing with criminals, the judge had always used only one method: summary execution on the spot. The next moment, a powerful force blasted that man into a pool of blood. Seeing this scene, the people around immediately erupted in cheers, all shouting that the judge had done well. But I was somewhat stunned. In this world, killing someone could actually be so easy, without even needing to go through legal procedures. It seemed that if I wanted to survive, I had to be even more careful than before. Then he walked over and thanked me, and told me that he was a member of the Player Headquarters Council. "Thanks to you, I was able to subdue that terrorist. I want to reward you. Which guild are you from?" But I told him that I was not yet a formally registered player at headquarters. That surprised him greatly. To recognize one buff effect among thousands of summons at a glance, yet not even be an officially registered player. At his request, I still handed over my ID card to him. "After the background investigation is completed, you will receive a reward according to the rules." "I understand. Since there is nothing else, I'll be leaving first." After I left, Park Chang-suk made a phone call and asked the other side to thoroughly investigate my identity. Afterward, I went to take a walk in the park. Then I bought a donut as a reward for Lam for obediently staying quiet. Watching this girl greedily eating the donut, I only felt that her simplicity was somewhat adorable. I had heard that other players would sometimes even quarrel with their own summons, but all it took was one donut from me to make her this happy. The changes in this world were even greater than I had imagined. It seemed I had to speed up my actions. The most important thing now was to collect summoning scrolls and summon the next summon as quickly as possible. My top targets were the instructor and that dragon mage who controlled explosions. Because they were E-rank and D-rank monsters respectively, I could draw them through low-grade summoning scrolls. At the same time, Park Chang-suk also received a piece of intelligence. The reason I had not registered as a player was because that car accident had left me in a coma for 3 years. At the time, the game had just descended into reality and accidents were happening frequently, so this sort of thing was not unusual. But he had only just woken up and had already immediately submitted an application to register as a player at headquarters. Hearing this, Park Chang-suk immediately began flipping through the documents and finally found my application form. I will personally supervise this test. Waking up and rushing to register as a player right away means he definitely possesses unusual ability. Just then, I had also arrived at the player evaluation site as agreed. To become a player, I had to defeat all the opponents here. But for me, this was not difficult because no one understood this game better than I did. What I had not expected, however, was that the examiner for this test would actually be Park Chang-suk, the very man who had taken action in the cafe yesterday. After explaining the rules of the exam, he called me over alone to meet him. The moment he opened his mouth, he directly asked me whether I had once been a game player. According to him, 70% of the players currently on the rankings had once played this game. To avoid making myself seem too special, I only told him that I had played for just 1 year. Upon hearing that, he was obviously very excited and already seemed convinced that I had once been a top-tier player. After calming himself down, he told me that because I had helped him before, he had prepared 2 reward options for me. The first was this: with my authority, I can register you as an official player right now, and I can even arrange a position for you at headquarters. To be honest, I was not very interested in this proposal, because even without relying on him, I could easily pass the registration. As for the second option, it was to immediately receive a reward of 5 million won. At that moment, Park Chang-suk clearly believed that I would definitely choose the first option, since almost no one would reject a stable job at headquarters. But unexpectedly, the moment he mentioned the second option, I hardly hesitated at all and chose the cash directly, which left him quite helpless. As for that, my explanation was straightforward. I had no plans to work at headquarters, and becoming a registered player was only a matter of time for me. Afterward, I came to the portal leading to the dungeon evaluation. The content of the exam was very simple. Within 1 day, I had to clear as many Tuesday dungeons as possible. To be safe, the moment I entered, I first placed a protective barrier on myself. At that moment, the system notified me that the room was filled with poisonous slimes, and that I had to defeat them and then escape from here. So I decisively ordered Lam to swing the wand in her hand, and continuously increase the attack speed of the gorilla beside me. The structure of Tuesday Dungeon was like a maze. As you defeated slimes along the way and searched for the exit, you would eventually encounter the boss. This place was also where countless beginners most easily wasted time and lost their direction. But based on my experience, finding the exit was not difficult, and those slow-moving slimes simply could not catch up with us. Very soon, I found the door leading out through a shortcut. After I walked in, the system also notified me that the dungeon boss was about to appear. And this was also the first time I had seen the real-world Slime King with my own eyes. Afterward, I sent out the gorilla, whose speed had been enhanced by Lam, to engage it head-on. The next second, with only one strike, it smashed the slime into pulp. Because the Slime King possessed healing ability, the gorilla then used its extreme speed to continuously destroy its body. This left me somewhat shocked. I had not expected Lam's attack speed enhancement to be this outrageous, enough to make even an F-rank summon this fast. Then if it were a higher rank summon instead, just how powerful would this bonus become? Very soon, the system popped up a notification of successfully killing the boss monster. And my clear time was 5 minutes and 32 seconds, but I still felt it was too slow. If I still had my power from the game, 1 minute would have been enough. But to my surprise, this result directly broke South Korea's fastest record and even triggered a special achievement. And precisely because of that, I additionally obtained 3 high-grade summoning scrolls and 2 low-grade magic materials. The inspectors outside who were responsible for observation were shocked on the spot. None of them had imagined that someone could really break the long-standing record and even cut the time by nearly half in one go. Then they pulled up my information, only to find that I was not one of the powerhouses on the rankings at all. That made them even more shocked. The one who had broken the record was actually just a rookie. Meanwhile, the upper management at headquarters also received this news. Park Chang-suk concluded that I was this country's true treasure, and on the spot he gave the order that my safety had to be guaranteed no matter what. And under no circumstances could I be poached by another country, otherwise our country would definitely face a major disaster. So register him as a player immediately. Shouldn't he still compete against the other contestants one more time? Clear times were divided into national rankings and global rankings. Kang Jianho held first place in South Korea with a time of 6 minutes and 41 seconds. Meanwhile, Rachel had secured her position as world number 1 with a time of 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Now that Baek Jinwoo has already broken the Korean record, do you still think it is necessary for him to fight the other players? I believe that truly talented people should receive special treatment. Not long afterward, after walking out of the dungeon, I was still a little dazed. I had not expected them to be so weak that it only took me 5 minutes to take first place. Just then, Park Chang-suk ran toward me with an excited look all over his face. From the way he looked, he had clearly already learned that I had broken the record. After praising me a few times, he handed me the business card in his hand. Only after seeing what was written on it did I realize that I had already been officially registered as a player by them. At that moment, Park Chang-suk was also very puzzled as to how exactly I had managed to break this record. That left me not quite knowing how to answer for a moment. If I were to say everything I knew right now, South Korea's overall strength would definitely surge. The problem was what would happen next. If I were lucky, perhaps I could enjoy wealth and glory with the support of the nation. But looked at from another angle, I might also be forcibly controlled and then pressured into handing over all my intelligence. So I could only tell him that this was a player's own strategy and I would not share it with others. Although he really did want to improve South Korea's overall strength, since it involved player privacy and strategy guides, he could not continue pressing the matter. Looking at Park Chang-suk's reaction, I felt that at least he did not seem like a bad person. He had transferred the promised money to me immediately the first time, and his personality did not seem bad either. More importantly, he knew his limits, and perhaps I really could use national resources to let myself grow faster. So I took the initiative and invited him to find a private place to talk. The moment we sat down, Park Chang-suk asked me to help them because headquarters was in urgent need of my professional knowledge. According to the information we collected, we heard that you lay in the hospital for a full 3 years. I apologize for investigating your information without permission before, but an unregistered yet skilled player really could have ties to gangs. Now that I'm already registered, there's no need to keep investigating anymore, right? Don't do that again in the future. Seeing my reaction, he was obviously a little surprised. Usually, as soon as the nation was mentioned, most people would get nervous and then cooperate as much as possible. But this person had no such reaction at all. He knew very clearly how much he himself was worth. And I was also thinking about what I could get if I chose to cooperate with the country. If you are willing to cooperate, although it may sound a bit direct, my network within headquarters is fairly strong. Headquarters administrators are elected by public vote, so as long as my performance is good enough, I can gain a large number of votes and continue raising my ranking. So as long as it is within my authority, I can give you the most comprehensive support possible. That condition was indeed not bad, and it could save me a great deal of trouble. So I decisively agreed to his request, but the term would only be 1 month. Because I had only just completed registration, for the next month I would focus on growth and only ask you for support when I needed it. If the results satisfy me, I will continue to cooperate. That also meant that during this 1 month, he would have to act like a secretary and handle things for me. But after thinking for a moment, he still agreed, because the value I had displayed was indeed worth gambling on once. The first thing I told him to do was to block the news that I had broken the record. Otherwise, it would not take long before people with ulterior motives set their sights on me. Next, I planned to first take a look at the rewards I got for breaking the record. 3 high-grade summoning scrolls and 2 magic materials. This reward really was not small. Although I wanted to open them directly right now, the drop rate for high-grade summons was simply too low. Perhaps I could also sell them first and exchange them for a large sum of money. At that moment, I suddenly remembered the network platform exclusive to players, where all players could trade freely. This was something Park Chang-suk had helped me install and taught me how to use. When I opened the trading market, I found that a single high-grade summoning scroll could actually sell for 3 million won. That left me rather shocked, which meant that this 5-minute dungeon had directly earned me 9 million won. At this rate, sooner or later I would let my whole family live a truly carefree life. Perhaps I could sell these 3 high-grade summoning scrolls and exchange them for more low-grade summoning scrolls, then gamble on drawing an EX rank summon. What I could not understand no matter how I thought about it, however, was why low-grade summoning scrolls were so common yet could still sell for 5,000 each. So I called my sister, planning to ask clearly what was going on. Under my repeated questioning, she told me that it was because player headquarters had been purchasing these scrolls all along. No one knew the exact reason. Perhaps it was under the banner of supporting high-ranking players. Or perhaps they wanted to stabilize the market because the quantity they purchased every day was fixed. But I heard that this purchasing program was going to be cancelled soon because headquarters no longer needed so many low-grade summoning scrolls. Hearing her say that, it meant that headquarters was very likely sitting on a huge stockpile of low-grade summoning scrolls. So the next day, I immediately went to find Park Chang-suk and asked him to help me get those things. Seeing me come to him on my own initiative, he looked quite excited. "I didn't expect you to come to me so soon. Have you run into something you need?" Seeing that, I directly told him that I wanted low-grade summoning scrolls, and the more the better. That surprised him a little. "Don't you need mid-grade or high-grade scrolls instead? I can give them to you, but if you're planning to resell them for profit, that's not it at all. These things are already so abundant on the market now that they won't sell. I just want to stock up a bit for myself first." It seems you already have a plan in mind. As expected, you really are a player different from the others. For someone like him to specifically collect low-grade summoning scrolls, could it be that he was preparing to do something big? I can agree to your request, but I have one condition. Give me some truly useful information, even if it is only a small part of it. I became a headquarters council member through public votes, so if others found out that I casually gave away summoning scrolls bought with tax money, I would lose the public's trust. So if you can provide intelligence, then I will give you an equal quantity of low-grade summoning scrolls in return. After all, I also need to leave myself some room to maneuver. Sure enough, he was just as I had thought. There was no way he would simply hand things over to me for free. I actually liked it better this way, because it meant that as long as I produced intelligence of sufficient value, he would also show corresponding sincerity. First, there is a mechanic called achievement time reduction. That's right, the reward for first place in the national ranking is 3 high-grade summoning scrolls every time you enter a dungeon. But if another player breaks the record, this reward can be claimed again. In other words, as long as players take turns extending the record by 1 second and then breaking it again, they can keep obtaining the maximum reward. And the nation's overall strength will continue to grow because of it. This is indeed a method we often use, so the people on the rankings have basically all obtained this achievement. Although there are still many players who have never received even one reward, I do not think that is any major problem. The intelligence I am going to hand over to you now is the clearing strategy for Tuesday Dungeon. I knew it, you really are going to reveal the method you used to break the record. Seeing him so excited, I felt somewhat helpless. Actually, what I was going to say was the tactic once used by the 5 emperors. That's right, as long as you follow this method, anyone can clear it within 3 minutes. But we need to settle the price first. Besides the low-grade summoning scrolls you promised earlier, you also need to add another 50 high-grade summoning scrolls. That shocked him on the spot. That number was worth a full 150 million won. But this deal was actually extremely worthwhile. This method was not only suitable for low-level dungeons, it also worked for high-level dungeons. This strategy alone could bring you achievement profits worth at least 1 billion won. If there is no problem with your intelligence, I will transfer 150 million won to you right now. And I can also provide you with 10,000 low-grade summoning scrolls every day. That also meant that even if the drop rate was low, I would still have a chance to brute force my way into drawing powerful summons. After obtaining my secret, Park Chang-suk immediately convened a meeting and began arranging experiments. You should all know that the record for Tuesday Dungeon was recently broken, right? That's right. I heard that person is called Baek Jin-woo, and he is even a rookie. Actually, this is all thanks to a strategy one managed to obtain from overseas, and Baek Jin-woo is my first test subject. So that's how it is. No wonder you announced that this record should not be spread around everywhere. So from now on, I will teach you how to completely crush Tuesday Dungeon. And the key summoning creature for clearing this dungeon is this guy. Isn't this just a spotted Komodo dragon? What's special about it? The spotted Komodo dragon is about the size of an adult male, with decent attack power and very high defense. But once you actually use it, you will find that it is not easy to train, and compared with other B-rank summons, both its damage and toughness are not particularly outstanding. What they did not know, however, was that the spotted Komodo dragon's primary food was slime. As long as you put it into the dungeon, it would actively hunt slimes and achieve high-speed map clearing. After receiving this intelligence, almost all of those trainees cleared the dungeon in just over 5 minutes. And they had not expected the spotted Komodo dragon's appetite for slime to be this exaggerated either. It cleared out the small monsters along the way in less than 4 minutes. A few days later, the news began reporting continuously that the Tuesday Dungeon record was being refreshed again and again. All of this was attributed to Headquarters Council Member Park Chang-suk. Council Member Park Chang-suk obtained extremely valuable intelligence from overseas at an extremely low cost. And this also happened to prove that Baek Jin-woo was a figure far above all other players. I've made up my mind. Immediately form a team dedicated specifically to serving Baek Jin-woo. As for the members, the 3 of you will do. At the same time, I also quickly received the notice that 150 million won had been deposited into my account. I had not expected making money to be this direct. Even Lam could not help sighing that with so much money, we should be able to buy a lot of honey bread. And the 10,000 low-grade summoning scrolls he had promised to give me every day were also delivered on time. Since the other party had already fulfilled his promise, it was time for me to start carrying out my own responsibility as well. I only hoped that heaven would bless me and let me draw a truly useful summon this time. I hoped this would not become the beginning of my nightmare. Sure enough, just as I had expected, after a whole hour I had opened more than 3,000 scrolls, and all of them were nothing but F-rank trash. You really think EX rank would be that easy to appear? Although you drew me on your very first try, that was purely because you were lucky. To draw an existence on my level, even 100,000 scrolls might not be enough, much less just 10,000. I think you truly know nothing about this summoning system. The total number of summoned beasts is exactly 1/10 of the number of players, so in such an enormous pool, trying to draw a specific individual is naturally absurdly difficult. Although it can be confirmed that only you can summon the isolated summons, there are thousands upon thousands of kinds of summons, and the quantity of each kind is astonishingly large. So to put it simply, if you want to draw an EX rank isolated summon like me again, the difficulty is even higher than winning the lottery. But you do not have to worry too much. Once a certain type of summon has already been released, that type will not appear again. Hearing you say that, things are still very difficult. Should I try using mid-grade or high-grade summoning scrolls instead? That would only make the efficiency even lower, because they are more expensive and circulate in smaller quantities. It looked like I had no choice left. I could only keep relying on sheer quantity. And just like that, 2 weeks passed in the blink of an eye, and this summoning ritual had almost completely worn me down. During these 2 weeks, I tore open 140,000 low-grade summoning scrolls, yet still failed to draw any truly powerful summon. I even specifically rented a room near the player zone just for the convenience of synthesizing summons. Afterward, I came to the synthesis center in the player zone. Back then, this place had been a very famous hotel, but now it had become a place specially serving players. Then, as usual, I walked into the area dedicated to synthesizing summons. Today, I was still continuing to synthesize my wind spirit, Lamb. When I clicked synthesize, all those trash summons drawn from low-grade scrolls turned into nourishment for Lamb's level up. She had now already reached level 21, and her intelligence had increased by 2 points. That left me somewhat speechless. I had not expected that 140,000 summons would only stack her up to level 21. Lamb, seeing this, still asked me with an expectant face whether she had already become very strong now. All I could tell her was that of course she was the best, but what I was really thinking was, at this speed, when exactly would she ever reach the max level of 100? Because recently, low-grade summoning scrolls had already become completely insufficient for my needs. So I directly submitted a request to Park Chang-suk to exchange all 150 million won for summoning scrolls. After learning of my request, he immediately instructed his subordinates to sell all the low-grade summoning scrolls to me at half price. Because he was convinced that if I was doing this, I must certainly have my own reasons. And he also believed that before long, I would become this country's true hero. I continued hiding in places where no one was around, mechanically tearing open one low-grade summoning scroll after another. Meanwhile, Lamb stood by my side, constantly praying that I would at least hit the pity and draw one useful summon. Just then, the sound of footsteps suddenly drew my attention. Soon after, a woman in a suit walked up to me and told me that she was Yujiya from headquarters. She had come this time to notify me of the processing result of my previous application to headquarters to purchase scrolls. Before I could even speak, she had already continued talking on her own. In view of your recent performance and contributions, headquarters has decided to sell the scrolls to you at 50% of the price. In addition, headquarters has also decided to provide an extra 100 million won to support your actions. Hearing those terms, I was stunned for a moment. But there is one thing I need to make clear in advance: from now on, this matter must remain confidential. And I hope you can understand that everything we are doing is to maintain the relationship between you and headquarters. Alright, I've said everything I needed to say. If you have nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Watching her departing figure, I realized that headquarters had already almost completely placed its trust in me. So I also needed to draw an EX rank summon as soon as possible, as a real return for them. But even as I said that, after all these days, what I had still drawn were nothing but worthless small fry. These useless summons could only end up becoming experience points for Lamb. Just as I was on the verge of giving up, a bolt of lightning suddenly exploded out of a low-grade summoning scroll. This effect was exactly the same as when Lamb had appeared back then. Immediately after, I received a prompt saying that I had obtained the EX rank summon Pak Dragon. At that instant, Lamb and I both got so excited that we hugged each other. After working so hard for so many days, we had finally succeeded. But now was still not the time to relax. I had to keep drawing while this streak of luck lasted. What I had not expected, however, was that on the very next pull, I actually drew the EX rank instructor too. That made me unable to help wondering whether the system had finally felt sorry for me and directly given me a double pity. At the very beginning, he had only been an E-rank character with relatively weak combat power, so few people had been willing to summon him. But his true value did not lie there at all. This guy was a thoroughgoing training maniac. He could grow stronger through training, and his charm skill could even suppress other summons. Judging only from the panel, this mentor's strength was not great, and his basic skills were not particularly outstanding either. But once he grew and unlocked the mentor skill, he could unleash the potential of other summons and greatly increase their growth speed. And that was precisely why I had desperately wanted to draw him. After hearing that, Lamb at the side could not help complaining that she actually did not want to become stronger and more muscular at all. Afterward, I took the initiative to greet him. "Long time no see. Coach, how do you know my nickname? Could you be Gene Reed?" "That's right, just as you said, I am him." Hearing that, he immediately dropped to one knee. "Master, this is unbelievable. For some reason, I was sealed away. I never thought I would ever see you again." At that moment, Pak Dragon also walked over and asked me whether I was really his master. This was the first time I had ever heard him speak. Mage Pak Dragon had once been a D-rank summon. Don't be fooled by his cute appearance. He actually possessed extremely powerful flame burst potential. His first skill was to breathe a dragon-shaped flame straight ahead, while his second skill was Devour, which permanently increased skill attack power each time he defeated a boss. However, without the instructor's guidance, his Devour skill could not be activated at all. Looking at the energetic Pak Dragon before my eyes, all I felt was happiness. Afterward, I told them that in the future, they were not to call me by my old name anymore, and could just call me Baek Jinwoo from then on. It was already very late now, so we should head home first and get some proper rest. After returning home, because I was truly too tired today, I collapsed into sleep the moment I lay down. It seems Master used up too much physical strength in order to summon us. At that moment, Lamb spoke up and asked, "So you're that mentor, right? We met once before. But since Master summoned me earlier than you, can I call you third brother?" "Whatever. That sort of thing is not important to me. What is important is that the three of us are all too weak right now. If we truly want to help Master, this bit of strength is far from enough. So even though Master has already fallen asleep, we still have to continue training. We'll start with you, Pak Dragon. Sit down now, concentrate your mind, and feel the magic inside your body. Once I finish preparing later, I'll help you unlock your Devour ability first. And you too, Lamb, don't think you can slack off. The first thing you need to improve now is your wand swinging speed, so next you are going to do strength training with me. But I'm a little fairy. Do I really have to train strength too?" "Of course you do. Start with that pot. Hold it now and swing it 5,000 times. Because the director has already given the order that starting today, low-grade summoning scrolls can no longer be provided to Park Chang-suk." That left him somewhat surprised. The director is so busy every day, so why would he suddenly focus on such a trivial matter? On top of that, the other side also demanded a detailed report explaining exactly how you have used all the low-grade summoning scrolls up until now. It looks like behind this matter, Council Member Lim Hee-soo is making a move. I've already written the report, but if headquarters no longer issues scrolls, then we won't be able to continue getting closer to Baek Jinwoo. Just as Park Chang-suk was thinking about how to resolve this matter, he suddenly received a message from me. In the text, I told him that there was no need to keep providing me with low-grade summoning scrolls now. I had already obtained what I wanted. Hearing this news, Park Chang-suk immediately let out a sigh of relief. Baek Jinwoo doesn't need that anymore. Still, it's also time to settle this matter with that bastard once and for all. Taking advantage of the nice weather, I came to an ordinary dungeon. In the game, dungeons were divided into 4 types in total. The first type was daily dungeons, used for collecting various resources. The second type was the Tower of Trials, which was far more difficult than ordinary dungeons. Although the death rate was extremely high, the rewards were equally rich. The third type was the Chaos Demon Dragon Raid, which required players to team up to clear. As for everything else, it was all classified as ordinary dungeons, and that was exactly where I was going now. If a dungeon remained uncleared for too long after appearing, the monsters inside would pour out from it. After confirming my identity information, the administrator let me enter the dungeon. The next second, my whole body fell from high in the air and dropped into the inside of the dungeon. Looking at the scene inside, this place was obviously already in total chaos. A large number of armored warriors were fighting head-on against orcs. At that moment, the soldiers on the wall were shouting for all the orcs climbing up to be knocked back down. When I used to play the game, I did not have much sense of reality from it, but now that I was seeing it with my own eyes, I understood just how real all of this was. It was obvious that these ordinary soldiers were simply no match for these giant orcs. After one teammate was injured, the others immediately shouted for healers to come support them. This kind of scene, so real it was almost cruel, was practically like a true war. Afterward, I opened my protective barrier. Then I immediately summoned my 5 summons, preparing for battle. Not long ago, I had just obtained a D-rank Golden Fairy and a D-rank Mini Kong, and it would be hard to find better healer and tank choices than them. After that, I had Lam wave her wand at once to increase their attack speed. As for Pak Dragon, he was responsible for fire support from the rear. Once everything had been arranged, I immediately ordered Mini Kong to charge at the Orc Chief. To clear this kind of Orc dungeon, it was actually very simple. As long as you killed the chief first, the remaining foot soldiers were nothing to fear. The next moment, the Orc Chief swung the blade in his hand and smashed it viciously toward Mini Kong. But as one of the most defensively outstanding among D-rank summons, how could it possibly be defeated so easily? And during this period, Lam kept constantly swinging her wand, increasing everyone's attack speed. The instructor leaped down from the city wall, and his figure vanished from the spot in an instant. Under Lam's attack speed enhancement, his lightning-fast strike swept down several orcs in the blink of an eye. On the other side, the Golden Fairy stood ready at any moment to heal injured teammates. With the dual support of attack speed and healing, Mini Kong quickly suppressed the Orc Chief. This left the soldiers on the wall staring in shock. Could they be the allied reinforcements who had come to help? Pak Dragon also began chanting a spell, preparing to launch his attack. Immediately after, a dragon-shaped flame surged fiercely into the battlefield. That terrifying power instantly turned the surrounding beastmen into a sea of flames, along with the coach cutting off the beastman leader's head with a single slash. Very soon, I received the system notification that the dungeon had been successfully cleared. This raid made Pak Dragon gain 5 levels in one go, and its intelligence also increased by 2 points. The coach also gained 5 levels, but the extra attribute he received was only 1% critical hit rate. As for the reward I got, it was an intermediate summoning scroll worth as much as 500,001. I didn't expect that in just 2 short minutes, I had already earned this much money. Looks like I need to keep looking for the next dungeon. Leveling up my summons while making money, it was time to completely rewrite my life through non-stop effort. Assemblyman Park Chang-suk was sitting listlessly in his office. One of his subordinates couldn't help but sigh. Where on earth did you get the confidence to make such a huge bet? Not long ago, because of that previous incident, the two of them had gone straight into the conference room for a confrontation. I was only making a suggestion, because this pretentious-looking guy is wasting the budget for nothing. You can't even train a single qualified recruiter, and you still dare call yourselves a talent management team? Up to now, this guy still hasn't brought out even one player who could make the national team. That bastard. I really wanted to teach him a lesson on the spot, but every year players trained by Lim Hee-soo are selected for the national team. But I can't just keep watching like this. What if, starting now, the members I train make it into the national team? Are you really that confident? Then do you dare make a bet with me? There are only 10 spots on the national team at most, so let's see which of us can seize more seats. The loser must resign voluntarily and personally admit that the other is better. If anyone runs away midway, the penalty is 1 billion won. The reason you agreed to him couldn't really be because you believe in Baek Jin-woo, right? Although he's stronger than ordinary players, compared with the people on the rankings, the gap is still far too big. I believe in him. I'm certain that as long as we give him enough support, he will definitely bring us key intelligence. Just then, a subordinate hurriedly pushed open the door and rushed in. Didn't you ask me to investigate that player who recently cleared more than a dozen D-rank dungeons alone? The investigation results are out. That person is Baek Jin-woo. How is that possible? He's only been registered for less than a month, and he can already clear a D-rank dungeon within 5 minutes. Hearing this, Park Chan-suk finally couldn't help laughing out loud. I told you long ago, Baek Jin-woo is the key figure. That's great. I knew this guy was worth my trust. Sure enough, I still have to trust my own judgment. My eye for people is frighteningly accurate. Just now, after these past few days of raiding, I had already saved up 16 million won. So much money that it even gave me an unreal feeling. During these past few days, like a madman, I continuously raided 160 D-rank dungeons. I owe all of this to the 2 newly arrived EX rank summons, which made it easy for me. And this was the entire income one got after selling all the intermediate summoning scrolls. But from now on, I need to separate my accounts. First, keep one account specifically for daily living expenses. Then open another family account so they can also spend some money properly. As for the rest, I plan to pour all of it into summoning. Because right now, the strength of my summons is the value of me as a player. After grinding these past few days, everyone's level had already reached 30, so it was time to get runes to strengthen them. For that, entering daily dungeons to farm runes was the only answer. But if I wanted to clear daily dungeons quickly, I needed a core summon. I wonder whether there's a suitable one on the market right now. Only when I checked did I realize that C-rank summons cost an average of 20 million, while B-rank ones had directly soared to 200 million. That surprised me a little. With my current assets, I probably couldn't afford even one, and there weren't even any A-rank or S-rank ones here. But that was normal too. Even if you used a high-grade scroll, the probability of pulling a B-rank summon was only 1%. While I was thinking, I suddenly came up with a way. In that case, maybe I could ask someone to help me secure them. After learning of my request, a subordinate immediately pushed open the door to Park Chang-suk's office. Assemblyman, player Baek Jinwoo has sent a new request. Really? What did he say? Did he mention any new intelligence? At that, the subordinate directly placed the phone in front of him. What I had sent over was a long list of summons I wanted to buy. This sight instantly startled Park Chang-suk. How could there be so many? If headquarters had been willing to buy these for me back then, would I still be using C-rank summons now? Did he say that as long as we buy them, he'll tell us something? He said he would tell us the secret to time-attacking daily dungeons. Not just the Monday or Wednesday dungeon, but all daily dungeons? He acted very generously. What he wants to tell us isn't just about one dungeon. I understand. I'll go talk to the head of headquarters about this matter. But not long after, when he returned from reporting the matter, he came back to the office full of anger. What a foolish old man. He won't even approve this kind of talent. No wonder our country is always at the bottom. Honestly, if every assemblyman had his kind of enthusiasm, that would be great. What exactly did the director say to make you this angry? He said that before making any demands, we should first present evidence and then give him a clear plan. But without summons, how am I supposed to clear the dungeon? If this matter is true, then it's enough to shake the whole country. Yet headquarters is too stupid to even see that. Indeed, headquarters was truly disappointing this time. Selling such enormous intelligence to headquarters, yet it's only worth a mere 1.3 billion. Isn't that too cheap? Assemblyman Park Chang-suk, how about I pay this money directly myself? Hearing that, Park Chang-suk was stunned on the spot, only then recalling her true identity. In fact, she was the 4th granddaughter of Korea's #1 chaebol group. What she had received since childhood was the full education package of a chaebol heir. But compared with management rights, she was more interested in players. And now, the player who interested her the most was Baek Jinwoo. He possessed far too much information, so much that it was hard to believe he was just a newcomer, and he even dared to make deals with the state. What if I establish a management agency that serves only one person? I will boldly invest in Baek Jinwoo and let him truly make use of that information. Then we will split the profits. It will be completely different from the previous talent management team. And I don't need to worry about money either. Even I can't clearly say how much balance is in my account. But before that, I need to meet Baek Jinwoo one more time to confirm my judgment. Yoo invited me to meet and talk in detail at a hotel. I didn't expect them to act on my request so quickly. 300 million won is no small sum. And the place she arranged to meet me was even a 5-star hotel. This was also my first time seeing such a luxurious hotel and such enthusiastic service staff. I had already learned about Yoo identity from the news before. I didn't expect that as a chaebol family's young lady, she would actually work at player headquarters. When I arrived at the agreed location, I discovered that she was the only one there. Seeing that, she told me that today's meeting was her personal intention, not a decision from headquarters. Unfortunately, it seems headquarters can no longer support any of your requests. Assemblyman Park Chang-suk has already done his best, but there are still many people at headquarters who oppose it. Hearing that, I actually didn't care. After all, even without their help, it wouldn't really affect me. At this moment, Yoo suddenly said to me, I plan to establish a personal company dedicated exclusively to serving you. Hearing this, I was obviously stunned for a moment. For me, this was clearly good news. Without all the messy rules of headquarters, I could also guarantee that she would get enough profit. And Yujiya is a chaeble's daughter, so the price she offered me would definitely not be low. Just like that, the conversation at the dinner table went exceptionally smoothly. So Yujiya prepared to start taking action on the spot, even though I had not yet officially signed a contract with her. That made me have no choice but to admire it. The execution power of chaeble's really was exaggerated. A few days later, my younger sister was walking down the road alone with her head hanging low, wondering what exactly that brother of hers had been busy with, not even answering his phone. And she had even heard that I had actually bought a large house of my own. Just then, she suddenly saw a woman walk past in front of her. She's so beautiful. This face, I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. After thinking for a moment, she suddenly remembered a post she had seen on social media before. I didn't expect that she was actually Yujiya. Why would she appear here? The trainer was training my other summons, and every one of them was so exhausted they could hardly move. He suddenly sensed unusual movement coming from behind. Everyone, be quiet. It seems someone has come over. Then I turned my head and saw that the person who had come was Yujiya, whom I had previously agreed to meet. Hello, everyone. I didn't expect you to work this hard, training continuously from morning until now. It looks like you've already formed quite a good team, though some of these summons are still my first time seeing them. These are all my main summons. I'll introduce them to you one by one in a moment. Then I won't beat around the bush. This time, I came to bring you a gift. In the next second, a system prompt directly popped up before my eyes, asking whether to accept Yujiya's trade. In this game, players can trade privately with each other and exchange their own summons. But the premise is that no one can play tricks or deceive the other side. Otherwise, they might very well be directly punished by the system, or even electrocuted to death on the spot. When I opened the trade list, all the summons I had needed before were neatly laid out inside. So I did not hesitate at all and directly pressed accept. The moment the transaction was completed, several streams of energy immediately surged into my body. Thank you very much. This is truly an incomparably precious gift. This is what I should do. So now, can we talk business? In the company I establish, 70% of the shares will go to you, 25% to me, and the remaining 5% to Assemblyman Park Chang-suk. The Assemblyman will continue staying at headquarters and provide us with help from the inside. And I also plan to poach 2 people from the current headquarters team to come work for us. I offered them triple salary, so they had already resigned directly this morning. I'm very grateful to you, but 70%, are you sure you really want to give me that much? This is my way of placing a bet. I only take a steady 25%, but in exchange, I have the ability to push the value of that 25% to the maximum. At this moment, what Yujiya was thinking was that voting rights were not important. What truly mattered was her relationship with Baek Jinwoo. Now, it was time to let go of other greed and first thoroughly stabilize the connection between us. Faced with such exaggerated terms, of course I had no reason to refuse, so I agreed to this cooperation on the spot. Since the contract has already been signed, I'll be in your care from now on. The trainer suddenly sensed movement coming from behind again. He discovered that someone was hiding in the bushes, secretly watching our every move. So he vanished from where he stood in an instant and rushed straight toward the bushes. Not long after, a burst of scuffling sounds came from the bushes. Then the trainer was seen carrying my younger sister Baek Jinya, along with her summon, as he walked out. This surprised me a little. I had no idea why she was hiding there eavesdropping. The trainer had caught Baek Jinya, who was secretly listening to our conversation. And all of this was simply because she was a fan of Yujiya and wanted to figure out what exactly my relationship with her was. And she was so excited that she kept asking me how things were really going between me and her. Seeing how badly she wanted to know, I decided to tell her everything exactly as it was. So in short, what you're saying is that you're a top player in this game, so the person who broke the dungeon record before was you, right? I didn't expect that you could play this trash game for an entire year. Although I told her everything else, there was only one thing I didn't say, that I was Jean Reed. This wasn't because I didn't trust her, but because I had to be cautious. My family had taken care of me for 3 years. Before thinking things through, I couldn't drag them into danger. At the very least, I had to become strong enough to protect them before I had the right to reveal my true identity to others. But brother, why are you only telling me this now? I'll explain it to mom and dad later as well, so for now, keep it secret. At this moment, the trainer was training the other summons. Because it was my order, they didn't even dare make a single sound. At this time, the trainer's gaze landed on the C-rank shadow spirit beside Baek Jinya. Seeing that, I planned to tell her something she still didn't know and, at the same time, raise my sister's strength a bit. If you still want to keep strengthening the shadow spirit, then go raise a shadow wolf and send them into battle together. Without a shadow wolf, your efficiency won't even reach 10%. A shadow wolf? There's actually a summon like that? She immediately picked up her phone and began searching for information on that summon. But when Beck Jinya saw the price of the shadow wolf, she was completely stunned. You're not messing with me, are you? The price of a shadow wolf is as high as 500 million. Even if I work another 20 years, I still wouldn't be able to afford it, right? Don't worry, I'll solve this for you within 1 month. That's something worth 500 million. Although you're also a player now, earning that much money isn't easy at all. I'd better just slowly save it up myself. Don't worry, I mean what I say. You don't need to worry about money. Why does this feel a little off? The way brother is now, it's like he has become a completely different person. Very soon, time came to 1 week later. After joining the company, I prepared to officially explore the Monday dungeon. This is the equipment you must wear every day when entering a dungeon from today onward. Mr. Beck Jin-woo. The primary business of our company is the field of intelligence. Now, we will sell some clear videos from inside dungeons at high prices. And this advanced equipment is the key to making that happen. As long as you put it on, it will record everything around you in full 3D. It is flexible enough and light enough, so it won't cause any overly obvious discomfort. When it was put on me, I immediately realized that it really wasn't much different from ordinary clothes. It's just that this whole process was a bit too formal, and the pressure it gave me even felt greater than raiding a dungeon. This is my first time farming the Monday dungeon, and I'm not sure whether it'll be very dirty inside. Is this really okay? It's fine. Anyway, we'll cut some scenes out. Okay, if shortly after I go in, I end up breaking the national record. No problem. Don't be nervous. Just be natural, like when you were still a gamer back then. The national record for the Monday dungeon is 7 minutes. I'm confident I can break it easily. This is a typical defensive dungeon. Normally, players have to withstand wave after wave of undead attacks for a full 30 minutes. But those on the world rankings use another method. Although this place is called a defensive dungeon, as long as you defeat the final boss, the Lich King, the instance ends immediately. So right now, going straight to find the boss is the optimal solution. It seems this suit is also functioning normally. Then I opened the system panel and began selecting the summons for this battle. Before, I had already divided them into 2 or 3 sets of teams, and a player could create at most only 3 sets. I had already categorized them all according to player use, player versus player, and daily dungeons. The team I summoned afterward was the trainer, Mini King Kong, and the newly acquired battle sheriff. The support positions were the Peacemaker and the Golden Angel. At this moment, the system notified me that the evil wizard's undead army was approaching, and I was to hold the line until reinforcements arrived. Immediately after, the 30-minute countdown began. Faced with such an absurd number of undead troops, ordinary summons probably wouldn't be able to withstand them at all. But they couldn't even break through Mini King Kong's defense. Then Mini King Kong was seen grabbing a soldier's skull in one hand. That terrifying strength crushed it completely with just one blow. Mini King Kong quickly cleared out the skeleton soldiers around us. The target now was to deal with the boss summoning them from behind as quickly as possible. Seeing this, I immediately told all the summons to first move to higher ground. Hearing the order, the trainer nodded in agreement. Noticing that I was filming, he immediately responded to me with body language. While relocating, I glanced at the time. There were still 27 minutes left. I had to get there within 2 minutes. But even so, those little underlings that had been released still chased us relentlessly from behind. But all of them were casually taken care of by the trainer. As for Mini King Kong, who was guarding the rear, he casually picked up the skull of a skeleton soldier. In the next second, the attack he hurled directly pierced through the enemy's body. That scene made my skin crawl, and also made me thankful that they were summons standing on my side. After reaching higher ground, I had the battle sheriff raise his barret and lock onto the boss. The battle sheriff possessed ultra-long range and astonishing accuracy, but its destructive power was far too weak, so almost no one had been willing to use it in the past. Yet in the low-level Monday dungeon, it was practically life-saving because the Lich King's HP was not high. I told the battle sheriff to keep locking on and not fire yet. Then I had the Peacemaker cast Radiant Blessing on it. The effect of this blessing was very direct. It could remove the Lich King's skill that made him immune to ranged attacks, namely Dark Shield. The trainer, who was responsible for clearing the soldiers, was still harvesting them with great efficiency. And Mini King Kong, fighting shoulder to shoulder with him, was equally astonishing in strength. Even when surrounded by a group of skeleton soldiers, he did not retreat in the slightest. And with the Golden Angel present, ordinary injuries could almost recover in the blink of an eye. Under my command, the battle sheriff finally opened fire on the boss. It was just that the damage it dealt was pitifully low. Each shot could only shave off 2 points of his HP, compared with others. This amount of damage was almost negligible. Because the sheriff's rune strength was not high and its level was also relatively low, relying on it alone to kill the boss would take a very long time. And this was exactly why everyone said its efficiency was too low and almost no one would use this summon. At this moment, Mini King Kong, who was taking the siege head-on, was also clearly showing signs of fatigue, even though the Golden Angel was continuously healing him. At this time, a skeleton soldier suddenly charged out from a strange route. Mini King Kong, who wanted to go support, was also forcibly pinned to the ground by the soldiers around him. But I didn't panic in the slightest and simply stood there quietly. The soldier that was about to pounce toward me was pierced through in the next second by the longsword behind me. The trainer had extremely rich combat experience, so I didn't need to worry at all about this level of sneak attack. And long before this, I had already had the trainer unlock the battle sheriff's potential and obtained a new skill. So now, he possessed a brand new finishing move. Even against a top-tier wizard, he could take him down with a single shot. In the end, only a gunshot was heard, and the bullet hit the wizard's body with precision. Along with his fall, the system notified me that the dungeon leader boss had been successfully defeated. And the clear time reached an unprecedented 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Because I had broken the Korean record, I also received an additional special achievement. At this moment, Yujiya outside was waiting for the ranking result of my dungeon clear this time. I gave you new summons, and it's only been 1 week. Even if you fail to break the record this time, I'll still continue to support you. But can Baek Jinwoo really refresh the records of all daily instances? Breaking the Tuesday dungeon record is indeed already an incredible feat. But he has never explained at all how exactly he plans to clear the other dungeons. It's not as if Korea has never had veteran players all these years. I worry that he is only bluffing. It's fine. Anyway, this investment is using my own money. Investment carries risk in the first place. But you two don't need to worry either. I'll guarantee that your careers won't run into problems. After all, being able to work here for me is already an opportunity that others couldn't get even if they begged. And Baek Jinwoo still has even more things hidden from us. That overflowing confidence of his is practically like saying that this kind of dungeon is not worth mentioning at all. Inside the monitoring room, a burst of cheers suddenly erupted. The record has been broken. The Monday dungeon record has actually been refreshed to 4 minutes and 12 seconds. A full 3 minutes shorter. This is simply unbelievable. Who on earth has this kind of strength? When he clicked open the profile picture of the record breaker, everyone's breathing seemed to stop, and they froze in place. I didn't expect that it was actually Baek Jinwoo. On his very first attempt, he directly broke the record. After hearing this news, Yujiya was so excited that even her body was trembling. Great! This is at least a very good beginning. As long as everything goes smoothly afterward, my decision will receive the most perfect proof. Using the new record, I cleared the Monday dungeon. Afterward, a portal appeared in front of me that would let me leave directly. But before leaving, there was still one thing I had to do. So I manually turned off the camera on my body. Next, it was time to begin battle training. When you complete a daily dungeon, you can activate auto battle mode. This meant that the more my summons trained, the more rewards I would be able to obtain. When I pressed auto battle, a virtual character exactly identical to me appeared in front of me. Then I summoned Lam and had her continue farming the Monday dungeon. She was a little puzzled. Shouldn't this kind of task be handled by the instructor? In response, I directly told her that the instructor still had to train the others. What? Did she want to be trained by him too? After hearing my words, Lam instantly recalled the scenes of when she had once been trained by the instructor. Those training sessions had already left an extremely deep shadow in her heart. Thinking of that, Lam immediately said in a tearful voice that this dungeon should still be left for her to farm. Next, we continued moving forward, and during this time, we also cleared all the other daily dungeons together. After that, I would let auto battle slowly accumulate rewards while also training the other summons. This was an extremely efficient process with almost no waste at all. Then I prepared to leave the dungeon. I'll leave the rest to you, Lam. But just as I stepped out of the portal, the scene before my eyes made me freeze a little. Yujiya had already brought her subordinates and laid out a red carpet at the place where I came out. So I handed her the set of clothes I had worn while filming. All the videos are stored inside this. Other than this, you probably don't need anything else, right? I will make sure the news does not leak out, so you don't need to worry about the media side either. At this time, I said to her that she could release the news of this record-breaking run however she wanted. But there was one thing she absolutely had to do, and that was protect my family, because some domestic gangs were indeed very rampant. As for Eugenia, I was relatively at ease. I believed that with her ability, she was enough to keep my family safe. I understand. I will protect them properly, even if I have to use my family's power. Afterward, I continued raiding the other daily dungeons. And the reason I chose to use the Komodo dragon to clear them was because I was still recording videos, and using it was already enough to create a world record. If I later equipped the spotted Komodo with movement speed runes and pushed the Wind Falcon's speed attribute to the limit, breaking records would be effortless. If I further excavated their potential through training afterward, I could probably even push it down to around 1 minute. After the clear was over, I stopped recording and left the Tuesday dungeon. The next target was the Wednesday dungeon covered in ice and snow, where I could obtain defense runes. It was just that the environment here was far too cold and would greatly restrict my movement speed. Then I opened the panel and began choosing the squad for this dungeon raid. The first to appear was the B-rank summon Wind Falcon. Then came the C-rank summon Frost Spirit Cat, along with the B-rank Titanium Stone Golem, the C-rank Horned Fairy, and finally the Fire Mage Pak Dragon. In this dungeon, summons that could resist the cold were a necessity, and the Frost Spirit Cat happened to fit the requirement. As for the monsters in this dungeon, they were large and sturdy snowmen. That was also the reason I chose to summon the Titanium Stone Golem. It could deploy a large area shield to help me block damage. Afterward, we could also move quickly with the speed boost from the Wind Falcon. Then the Wind Falcon landed on the Titanium Stone Golem's shoulder. As for the rest of us, we stepped on its hand and climbed together onto its shoulder. As long as we held tightly onto the Titanium Stone Golem's body, we could approach the destination at the fastest speed. But this way of moving was honestly a bit torturous for me. The shaking felt like motion sickness and made me miserable. The distant snowmen hurled a large number of giant snowballs at us. But attacks like these, as weak as tickling, had no possibility of penetrating the golem's shield. The sense of security brought by the Titanium Stone Golem was simply too strong. It was like a perfect tank. But this was far from all it could do. In the next second, the enormous golem suddenly leaped up and vanished from where it had stood. Then it firmly grabbed the distant cliff. Choosing this route that only the golem could take could save a great amount of time. After that, I had Pak Dragon at my side get ready, because next, the job of finishing the boss would be left to him. Immediately after that, at my command, the golem once again bounced off the cliff wall and launched into the air. At once, the system notified us that the snowman monster ahead was the leader boss of this dungeon. This snowman was even more ferocious than ordinary snowmen, and its whole body was covered in an ice crystal shield. Then I had the Horned Fairy, who had been standing by at the side, begin to act. Under the effect of her skill, the shield before the snowman instantly turned into snow water. And at this moment, it was the perfect timing for Pak Dragon to release his flame skill. In the next second, a ferocious flame dragon shot into the sky. The blazing fire formed by the skill melted all the surrounding ice and snow on the spot. Then the dragon roared as it lunged out, directly burning the dungeon leader boss into ashes. Just like that, relying on this whole chain combo, we successfully cleared the dungeon in 4 minutes and 22 seconds. If nothing unexpected happened, this result would be enough to leave the ranking record far behind. It was just that this whole clearing process really made me feel awful. The shaking while riding on the golem was so bad that I couldn't help vomiting on the spot. Not long after, the news that I had cleared the Wednesday dungeon with a new record once again spread across all social media. Everyone was discussing who exactly this guy called Baek Jin-woo was. To think he could consecutively break the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday records. This whole string of feats naturally also drew attention at the national level, and they began investigating my identity with full force. After breaking records one after another, I became the topic everyone was talking about. All over major social media, there were speculations everywhere about my strength. These successive battle reports naturally also alarmed the upper management at player headquarters. It seems this Baek Jin-woo is the person Assemblyman Park Chung-suk mentioned before. The one who said that as long as we gave him summons, he would be willing to give us intelligence, and that proposal was rejected by Lim Hee-soo at the time. Because at the time he said that if we did not first give him something, then he would not hand over the intelligence. But now it seems those pieces of intelligence were all real. What a pity. However, Assemblyman Lim Hee-soo was not entirely without reason at the time. But in politics, the most important thing has always been the result. If we had truly supported Baek Jin-woo back then, not only could we have received public praise, but we could also have gained more votes. Lim Hee-soo was basically kicking away the blessing that had rolled right up to his own feet. Secretary, contact that player called Baek Jin-woo one more time. We must find a way to pull him back. Meanwhile, on my side, I had already arrived at the Thursday dungeon. The Monday and Wednesday dungeons drop runes. The Tuesday dungeon, meanwhile, drops magical materials. And the Thursday dungeon I am about to raid now drops skill books. Although these skill books do not contain the unique skills of summons, nor those potential skills that only the trainer can bring out, some of the skills in them are still very useful, so they are still worth farming. And because of this, I no longer needed to specially go to the Sunday dungeon because both Sunday and Thursday drop skill books. But the Thursday dungeon was obviously much easier. Yet after truly beginning the raid, I discovered that things were not as simple as I had imagined. Because in this dungeon, as soon as you enter, you are immediately attacked by the leader boss. And moreover, the defense of this dungeon's boss is absurdly high. My plan was to use the B-rank White Wolf together with a defense reduction skill to raid it. Then I opened the system panel and selected the summon squad for this battle. Joining this battle was also the titanium stone golem that I had previously used when raiding the Thursday dungeon. Then I turned off the camera on my body. I couldn't put this footage online to sell. After all, I was using summons this strong, and others simply wouldn't be able to learn anything from it, like someone directly taking caviar out of a fridge to enter a chef competition. I only needed to tell them that using White Wolf to lower defense first, then finishing it with a high damage combo skill, would be enough. That's not to say there was absolutely no way to break the record. Although this guy had thick skin and high defense, as long as you hit its head, that would do, because its weak point was there. And that was exactly why I chose the titanium stone golem. A size difference problem like this would be much easier to make up for with it. Before the battle started, I first had the Wind Falcon increase its movement speed. Then I had Lamb strengthen its attack speed. With those two cooperating, it was enough to compensate for the titanium stone golem's clumsy and heavy body. Then I had everyone else lock onto the boss's head and prepare to attack. In the next second, the two giant creatures charged out at the same time and collided head-on. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the instructor climbed all the way up along the opponent's arm to its shoulder. After reaching the attack position, the instructor directly drew his weapon. With a flash of swordlight, that fierce attack instantly cut off the head of this giant boss. The Fire Mage Pak Dragon was also charging up his flame skill at the same time. Immediately after, a dragon formed from flames blasted straight at the boss. When the smoke cleared, the boss had already been completely killed, leaving only a mangled body behind. And this clear record was 5 minutes and 10 seconds, a full minute faster than the first place on the rankings. The strength displayed by this trainer was obviously absurdly strong. Looks like I have to leave him here to continue commanding the others in auto battle. And Pak Dragon is equally very strong. As long as he's used correctly, one-shotting the boss is no problem. If I leave now and let those two auto battle, they'd probably finish cleaning this place in 10 seconds. After arranging for them to continue raiding, I walked out through the portal. Then a man came toward me and asked whether I was player Baek Jin-woo. We are from player headquarters, the director's personal secretaries. Player Baek Jin-woo, we have already reviewed the proposal you submitted last time. Since you have already proven the results, then naturally we. Before they could finish speaking, I directly interrupted them. No need to say anything more, because the current me no longer needs headquarters investment. My crisp and decisive words instantly made the two secretaries who had come to invite me freeze in place, because I knew too clearly what those people at headquarters were thinking. When I needed help, they ignored me. Now that I'm starting to dominate the rankings, they come running over to get close to me. Looking at Eugenia instead, she had not hesitated at all and directly brought out everything I needed to support me. So of course I would not cooperate with them. If you have business, then go find my newly signed company partner, Eugenia. After dealing with this matter, I came to a relatively spacious house. The Friday dungeon was completely different from the ones I had raided before. In other dungeons, the focus was on summons killing monsters, but here, the player had to personally run to the finish line to clear it. I had to start practicing from now on and prepare in advance. When I clicked summon, a huge B-rank wyvern appeared before me. Just like that, I rode it directly up into the sky. Although the shield around me could block falling damage, a scene like this was still quite frightening. But after getting used to it for a while, I found that this was much more interesting than I had imagined. So before long, I rode it and prepared to head for the East Sea. And so, a few days later, I arrived on an island. At this moment, the instructor said excitedly, "Your speed in learning flight is truly too fast, so fast that even I feel inferior." Even when we rode wyverns for the first time, we went through quite a bit of embarrassment. Thinking about it now, in the game, the two of them had indeed ridden even dragons and dolphins. As expected of our Lord Jean Reed, "You are truly amazing." Alright, next is aerial dolphin style gliding practice, right? Learning from experienced people like you is the fastest way, so from here on, I'll be relying on you to teach me. After these few days of training, I smoothly entered the Friday dungeon. This place not only drops special runes, but is also where I obtained the title God of Time Attack. Then I summoned the Wind Falcon to increase my movement speed. As soon as the 10-second countdown ended, I had to immediately sprint at full speed. The instant the whistle sounded, I rushed straight out and ran toward the finish line. At the same time, I also had to dodge attacks flying over from afar. And I had to strictly follow the designated route, absolutely not stepping on those red squares. This feeling really was much more interesting than controlling a character's movement in a game. Now, it was time to enter the first hidden route. Ahead was already a dead end, and next I was going to head straight into the sea. Normally, you would have to swim across the sea area yourself, but I had another method. In the next second, I summoned the C-rank summon dolphin that I had obtained before. By using the dolphin to move underwater, I could avoid all the obstacles above. After avoiding the underwater obstacles, I immediately had the dolphin leap out of the water. Then I summoned the wyvern again and landed steadily on its back. Now, I only needed to fly over the remaining obstacles to clear the dungeon. After these few days of flight training, I quickly controlled it and rushed to the finish line. Then I reached the finish line with a time of 2 minutes and 12 seconds, successfully clearing the dungeon. Congratulations on successfully breaking the national record. Special achievement unlocked. After completing the Friday dungeon, the next target was the Saturday dungeon. This dungeon had no special requirements. As long as I cleared all the monsters inside, I could complete it. With Pot Dragon's large-scale flame attacks, I quickly refreshed the record and completed the raid in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Immediately after, the Sunday dungeon was also not very difficult and was likewise easily taken down by me in a record-breaking manner. And behind all of this tight coordination was the coach's long-term training. The clear time for the Sunday dungeon was 13 minutes and 20 seconds. At this point, I had fully cleared all the daily dungeons. Next, I had to raise my strength as quickly as possible, clear higher-level dungeons, and obtain more suitable runes and skills. Only by becoming strong enough would I have the qualification to challenge the Tower of Judgment reserved exclusively for the strong. 2 years should be enough. But first, that still wasn't the most important thing. I had to first think about how to deal with these materials obtained from farming dungeons, as well as those high-grade summoning scrolls. At the same time, in Eugenia's office, while looking at her phone, she noticed that today's headlines were all news about me breaking the records of all daily dungeons. It was as if the whole world had gone crazy for Baek Jin-woo. But then again, with the strength he had now displayed, clearing all daily dungeons within 1 week did not seem strange. Then she opened her mouth and asked Kim Byung-jin how the progress of the video editing was going. "I just completed the final edit. But even in the video, I still can't believe the footage I saw myself. Do you want to take a look?" According to Mr. Baek Jin-woo's request, I deleted the content of the Thursday and Sunday dungeons. Then what appeared on screen was my clear process in the Friday dungeon. His strategy and execution had already reached another level. Honestly, this was more like a performance. Even if we deliberately tried to film it, we still couldn't capture such perfect footage. People would probably only scold us for making something impossible to replicate. And this, precisely, proved just how unbelievable Baek Jin-woo really was. After pondering for a moment, Eugenia stood up and said, "Before we release the footage, first buy up all the summons that appeared in the video. You want to monopolize the market in advance, right?" "Exactly right. We must use this information to maximize the profit. Within the current budget, I will buy as many as possible. Don't worry about the budget, just buy them all directly. If there isn't enough money, then apply for a loan in my personal name." When Eugenia personally went to the bank for a loan, even the bank president was startled. Because her identity was there for all to see, almost every bank gave her the highest limit without hesitation. Not long after, Eugenia took the loan and bought all the summons. And now, it was time for these video intelligence assets to start turning into cash. Except for the Thursday and Sunday dungeons, which would be sold for only 10 million won, the intelligence for all the other daily dungeons was priced at 100 million won, and buyers also had to sign confidentiality agreements. "Boss, are we really okay selling them at such a low price?" Strategy intelligence is only bait to attract them to buy summons, and this is also good for the country's overall progress, so it doesn't matter if the price is lower. Representative, what price should we set for those summons we acquired? Set C-rank summons at 200 million and B-rank summons at 1 billion. That's already 10 times the current market price. Isn't that too ruthless? As long as the intelligence spreads, the demand for these specific summons will naturally surge instantly. Since we have already controlled most of the supply, they have no other choice and can only come buy from us. Now, it's time to recover the return on my investment in Baek Jin-woo. A few days later, no one had expected that the company's current revenue had actually soared to 377 billion won. When we bought those summons for Baek Jin-woo, it only cost us 1.3 billion. I didn't expect it to turn into this in the end. This figure was simply too exaggerated. Even Yoo Ji-hye, who came from a chaebol family, found it a little hard to believe, and she could only take a deep breath and force herself to calm down. Since this business model has already been proven successful, then now, let's begin the real investment. How about we go buy a building? A few days later, I sold off all the gains I had gotten from farming dungeons during this period. Looking at the balance of 54 million won on my phone, my mood immediately improved a lot. Just by selling high-grade scrolls over the course of 1 week, I earned 54 million won, and Lam had even already begun fantasizing about how much cream bread this money could buy. At this moment, Lam asked me whether I wanted to try drawing an EX rank summon one more time. Hearing that, I instantly recalled those painful days from before. Back then, I crazily tore open summoning scrolls until I was almost mentally collapsing. And most of what I drew turned out to be useless low-rank trash. It made me now completely unwilling to draw anymore. Rather than continuing to gamble on new ones, it was better to first train up the summons I already had. Right, I should also sell together the other things I obtained in the dungeons. Speaking of which, Baek Jin-hye had always been helping sell runes, so I might as well hand all these things over to her to handle. That way, I can also share the profits with her. I heard that while I was away, she had even covered part of the hospital bill for me in advance. And now, I already have money and resources. It's time to turn back and properly repay them.